again, welcome, and we're so honored to have you here. Last time I saw you was at the Harvard Kennedy School, where you were speaking and wowing a very large crowd. They're very impressed. I wanted to start by asking you, you've been an intelligence agency, basically a spy. You've been an Army lieutenant. You've been a lawyer, but most of your career has been in politics.
Yes.
And when you went
last
into
20 years.
yeah,
Yes.
so you went into politics. You said, your children are 8 and 5. They're now what, about 28 and 25?
Exactly. Yes.
At the time, you said you went into politics because you wanted to make a better, safer future for them. Where do things stand on that?
Well, I'm still in politics, so evidently it didn't change a lot. But it is true, I was a lawyer. I practiced law. I love this profession. I'm quite a good lawyer, better than a politician. But we have this ongoing conflict between Israel and the Palestinians. And it was just after the Oslo Agreement that basically shaped the first steps toward peace in Israel. And the Israeli society was divided between two different camps. One was speaking about the rights of the Jewish people on the entire land, which I believe, but yet I need to keep Israel and the values of Israel as a Jewish democratic state living in harmony, so we need to adapt the idea of two states for two peoples, but my voice was not heard. And I felt that I don't want to choose between two different camps or to go to the extreme, but to raise my voice and to be there and to do the right thing. And as you said, I looked at my two, well, small now, they are grown-ups, and I said, well, I should leave them something which is more than just a bank account as a lawyer, but a real state which I value with the right values as well. And this is what I do since then.
And part of the culture of peace that you talk a lot about and so eloquently is a two-state solution. How far away are we from that now?
Well, you can never know, because last year, if you had asked me last year, I would have said that we are close, we are getting closer, but yet, unfortunately, the last negotiations, I was the chief negotiator on behalf of Israel, unfortunately failed. Well, we didn't succeed. And so we need to relaunch negotiations now. And I feel that both in Israel and on the Palestinian side, there is less and less hope. People feel that it's not feasible. Both sides think that there is no partner on the other side.
Yeah.
So we need to re-energize this, to recreate hope, because otherwise, and now I'm speaking as an Israeli, I think that when time passes by, time works against those believing in two states for two peoples. And the other option, the other choice, is whether the world would force Israel to take certain steps that are not balanced, or we would wake up one morning, find ourselves with one state, but without real answer to the national aspiration of the two peoples, of the Jewish people and the Palestinians. And this, I believe, a price that both people shouldn't pay.
There was an interesting RAND report that just came out that showed the economic benefits to both economies if there was a two-state solution. How about that, and how much is settlement politics by your political opponent playing into this?
Okay. So, I want to go back for a second to 1967. This is the Six-Day War, and we were attacked by the entire Arab neighbors. We won this war, and since then, basically, we occupied the territories, the West Bank, and for a while also Gaza. But for us, it was like, I remember this as a child. I'm that old, and I was 9 years old, and for us it was, wow, it's our history. It's the tomb of our forefathers, it's there. It's the Bible. And we were thinking, well, I was a child there, but the idea was that we can live happily ever after, Jews and Muslims, Israelis and Arabs, in this tiny place.
Yeah.
And settlements were part of this vision of sending people to live there, and we will live but and giving equal rights. I mean, also voting rights to the Palestinians who live there. But during all these years, it appears that the Palestinians, they have their own legitimate aspiration for a state of their own. So the settlements activities belong to another vision, and this is the vision of Greater Israel, which is not mine now, because my vision is about Israel, a Jewish democratic state. The Palestinians' vision is about their own state, so we need to divide the land. Therefore, I don't support the settlements activities, but regardless to what each and everyone think about these activities, we need to understand that during all these years, there are changes on the ground, and most of the Israelis who live in the settlements are living quite close to the future border. So also the Palestinians understand that we need to adjust the border to these places, but yet I don't support expansion or I don't support these activities anymore.
And of course that divides you from Netanyahu to some extent, and you had a very divisive election battle recently, but you're also, we were talking about this before you, when you're united on a lot of foreign policy issues. You were just delivering a letter to the UK because there's this UN report in process, I guess, promoted by the Palestinians to declare Israel guilty of war crimes because of the Gaza war last summer. Just talk about that.
Okay. Basically, this is part of my frustration as well, because I oppose the policy that is connected to settlements, but yet, when it comes to Israel's security, we need to defend ourselves, and we are facing terror coming from the other side, which represent, now I'm talking about Hamas, that is a terrorist organization. They express extreme religious ideology, unlike the other side of the Palestinian society and leadership, that they express the legitimate desire for a state. So Hamas is using terror. Israel basically left Gaza Strip, but they are attacking us from Gaza Strip. So as a Minister of Justice, as an Israeli, as a decision maker, as a member of the Israeli Security Cabinet, we need to make decisions in order to fight terror, as in Britain and in other places in the world, because we have this lunatic organization that represents the religious part of the conflict, which is not only against Israel, it's against the entire free world. But Israel is being judged, unfortunately, sometimes in a biased way when it comes to our right to defend ourselves. And this is something that there is no opposition or coalition in Israel on this. So just before the UN Council for Human Rights is going to issue its report, I came with all the facts.
Here to London.
To London, to share with the British government first that we agreed to every ceasefire option that was on the table, that our soldiers are trying to avoid civil casualty, but unfortunately this happens, that we are investigating if there are in any military operation or war civil casualties, we are investigating ourselves. So all the facts were shown to the British government, hopefully that when the United Nations would issue its report, they could compare and get also other perspective on this. But in the end, since we are among women, I was asked about the Israeli soldiers. And I said today that in Israel, the military service is obligatory. So I was talking about my children. They were 5 and 8.
Obligatory male and female.
Male and female.
Yeah.
Well, we have also lots to do about equal rights to women in Israel and empowerment of women. But it's my boys. They are the Israeli soldiers that are being accused for deliberately shooting at children. Now, I know what are the values that I educated my sons. And they are not changing their values when they are putting the army uniform. So this is part of our frustration. We know what's happening, but in a way, when we are looking at the region, we have this satellite point of view. So we see ourselves in this small place surrounded by enemies as the Davids of the region. But when the world is looking at us, it's from Google Earth point of view. And what they see is the Israeli soldier and the Palestinian child, or the tank and the Palestinian woman. And there are these situations, this happens. But sometimes they don't see the entire picture. And therefore, I'm trying also to put the spotlight on different parts of the conflict, not just, feeling empathy for the Palestinian situation is something that I can share, but also I wish that Israel could be more understood on our need to defend itself when being attacked by these terrorists that are looking for children to kill.
And you personally have to deal with a warrant for your arrest when you come to England.
Yes.
How does that work? Explain that.
As part of these attempts by some extremists, I'm not talking about the legitimate PA government, they are not doing so, they know where.
Right.
There are those that I negotiate with in order to achieve peace. But there are those that are exploiting and abusing the judicial system here that permits putting charges against foreigners, against leaders coming from different parts of the world, but now I'm talking about myself. So they put charges against me after one of the military operations in the past. So they issued a warrant arrest.
As a war criminal.
As a war criminal, but basically the British government gave me
you a pass on that.
immunity. So my visit here, I came to share this with the most powerful women in the world, but also I got some discussions with the British government on the situation in the region, and so this visit is also formal.
So we've seen demonstrably rising rates of anti-Semitism in Europe. We see this movement that actually has a acronym, BDS, Boycott, Divestment, Sanctions. What do you make of all that?
Well, as I said, there's a gap between what Israel is and the perception and image of Israel. And I want to make it clear, listen, I'm in the opposition. I oppose the current Israeli government policy when it comes to the relations with the Palestinians, the peace process, and other things. But there are
you want a peace process that moves
I
into...
support deeply as an Israeli not only the idea, but not only a peace process, but peace based on the vision of two states for two peoples that gives Israel also security, borders, and legitimacy. But here what we are facing is that there's a small group, and this is the BDS group. They are not in favor of two states for two peoples. They are basically against Israel as a state. I don't want to enter to all these their demands, but basically it's to demolish or to get the legitimacy of the state of Israel. But the unfortunate situation, now they want to separate Israel from the world. Now, I don't think that everybody is anti-Semitic. Those that criticize Israel, sometimes it's because of the Israeli government policy. So I'm not asking the world to turn a blind eye of our policy, but I am expecting the world also to understand the complexity of the situation and to make a distinction between any Israeli government policy, it can be right, it can be wrong, and the nature of the state of Israel. Because Israel is a democracy, it's a Jewish democratic state, we have 20% minority of Arabs that are equal rights citizens, and the unfortunate situation is that this small group of BDS, they get the support from some that are criticizing the situation, they are criticizing the Israeli government policy, and they have less and less understanding that by supporting these boycotts, in a way it's against the entire state, it's a kind of a collective punishment, and it's not, it doesn't change the policy of a government, but it's something that puts us...
Is it hurting the economy?
We are not there yet. Hopefully we would not get there. But I must say that I would criticize my government back home, but I'm here to say, okay, this is one thing to criticize the government, but a completely different thing to boycott or to put sanctions on Israel, and this is something that I oppose deeply. And I try to find a way, as they want to put a barrier between Israel and the world, I'm trying to find a way to put a barrier between this group and those that are supportive of the two-state solution and don't understand that when they support the BDS, they support these extremists in a wrong way.
So I want to ask one more question and entertain some questions from the audience. The Iranian nuclear talks, how concerned are you about where things are going to end up in there, and what specifically are you concerned about?
Well, it's very important to say that the Iranian problem or the threat coming from Iran, it's not only an Israeli problem. I heard about the Iranian threat in Arabic from Gulf states and other, because Iran represents also an ideology which is based on, which is religious. It's not only against Israel, it's against the free world. It's between Sunni and Shia amongst the Muslim world. And it's a religious regime that is trying not only to deny the Holocaust and acts against its own neighbors, but also try to achieve a nuclear weapon. So it's a threat to the entire world. Now, the world now is trying to find to base an agreement in order to prevent Iran from having a nuclear weapon. The Americans are leading this. We have our own concerns, so I had also another meeting here sharing with the British government our concerns and listening to the one who negotiates this on behalf of the British government as part of these discussions. Now, what worries me is not only the question of nuclear weapon. This is one thing, maybe the most important. But I was talking about the conflict. I relate to Hamas as another religious group that acts in terror against Israel. Now, Iran supports Hamas. In Lebanon, there's another religious group, Hezbollah. It's a designated terrorist organization. It's not my views about this organization. They are designated terrorist organization in the European list. So, and Iran supports them. Look at what's happened in Yemen, in Syria. We are living in a tough neighborhood. It's a troubled region. And Iran supports terror. So it's not enough to stop them from having a nuclear weapon. This is one thing, very important. But I believe that we shouldn't give Iran legitimacy unless it stops its supporting in weapon and in money all these terrorist organizations in the region. But as I said, tough neighborhood.
But just to pin you down a little bit, are you concerned that the direction in which the talks are heading will leave Iran with a nuclear weapon capability that is impossible to offset?
You know, every leader in the world, I'm quoting now President Obama, Secretary Kerry, everybody says no deal is better than a bad deal. But then we have differences about what is a bad deal and what is a good deal. And it's in process. So for now it's too early to say, but we are worried, yes, we are. We don't want them. We achieved this situation, or the Iranians are coming to the table because of the international community policy against Iran with sanctions, with everything. And it was very difficult to have the support of the world international community, EU, United States, Russia, China. And we don't want to face a situation in which the moment in which they sign an agreement, there's a lift of all the sanctions and all. And then it's going to be very problematic, so we need to think about what's happened, the snapback, and whether the timeline. It's very complicated, and I'm not, I don't want to enter in all these details about centrifuge and nuclear and all this stuff. We can do it as women, but I'm not.
Evidence that the White House is taking Israeli concerns into its thinking enough at this point?
I believe that we should share the most intimate, frank, and open discussion with the United States on our concerns. and vice versa, to get all the information and to know where we stand. I think that it's not being done enough because of different reasons, but I don't want to enter into this.
We'll let you keep it there.
Yeah.
Questions? Right here.
Hi, my name is Christine Braden. I'm from Citigroup. In my role, I spend a lot of time with multinational corporations who are looking at where they're investing. And I repeatedly hear, more and more investment going into Israel. Can you talk a little bit about, your outlook and your vision for developing or further developing further developing the economy of Israel? And it's, despite the fact that you're in a difficult neighborhood, it's still a very attractive country. So can you talk a little bit about that, please?
Yes, it is. Yes, this is the brighter side of Israel.
Sorry.
Yes.
The key.
This is, as you said, this is the brighter side of Israel, and it's amazing because even though since the creation of the State of Israel, we are facing all these terror attacks and wars, and this is something that, but the Israeli economy is strong enough to face all this, and it's really a startup nation. We have different parts of Israel society and those young people, entrepreneurs and innovation, and partially because since it's a small state and until a few years ago it was without any resources or natural resources, so we needed to invent and to be creative. And I believe that this is part of who we are. And Israel would like also to, this is what we are doing, to contribute to the world on this. And to be part, and on economy, I don't need to tell you this, but it's a small village. And Israel is part of it, and the Israeli economy is strong. And talking also about the Palestinians, for us, supporting the Palestinian economy is something that we believe it's also our interest, because we don't want to have big, huge gaps as we have now between us and our neighbors. And the unfortunate situation is that there are those that are making a linkage between the political situation of Israel, not security, not because of what we are facing, because of the political situation and investing in Israel. I have my own debate with the EU, for example. We have very good relations and connections with the EU in research and some of the economic connections, but unfortunately, the EU is connecting the political situation or the ongoing conflict between Israel and the Palestinians to its policy. So last year it was almost there. They wanted to cut the research ties, but we stopped it. But frankly, we are stopping it by sharing with them that in the end our views, our vision is to live in peace. Sometimes there are different ideas here in Israel, but Israel is a democracy. Don't force us to do something. We would make our own decisions. And yet it affects, it's a kind of a shadow there. But basically, I'm very proud talking about Israel as a startup nation, which we are.
A lot of innovation there. We have time for one more question. Tina. Go ahead. The mic, I think, disappeared.
Thank you. Well, Citi is dominating the questions, I guess. I'm Tina Fordham. I'm the Chief Global Political Analyst at Citi, fellow foreign policy person. And it's remarkable. Last year saw the biggest uptick in geopolitical risk, many people think, since the fall of the Berlin Wall, between ISIS coming into Iraq and the Ukraine and Russia developments. Israel's in a tough neighborhood. We've had the view for a while that a deal with Iran is likely. I talked to Henry Kissinger about this a couple of months ago. He didn't think it was a great deal, but we agreed it was probably going to happen. I think a lot of the powers in the region would like to see things go back to the pre-Arab Spring status quo, but that's not going to happen either. So as these changes unfold in the region with the civil war in Syria, unleashing refugees, with Iran not obliged to stop its support for these organizations as part of a deal, with things in Egypt still quite tenuous, Are there any opportunities for Israel within this changing
Tina's trying to
environment?
search for good news in
Yes.
this whole thing.
Yes, I'm
Help
always
her out
accused
here.
of being depressing.
For your question.
But change can be an opportunity,
Okay.
but only for people who
Okay.
are prepared to, right, to...
I will answer. There are two possibilities. I mean, I live there. And there are two possibilities. One is to see all these threats. And this is the reality. We have ISIS, we have Iran, we have Hamas, we have Hezbollah, we have changes. The Arab
Al-Qaeda in
streets
Yemen.
are shaky. We have Yemen now, Syria, which is right on our borders. So there are those in Israel that are saying, okay, when this all is happening, we should stay still and see when things calm down and stabilize, and they make our own decisions. I think differently. I think that the role of leadership is to see the changes, to look at the reality, but to see whether there are opportunities. And I believe that also now, and this is the situation, we can find the opportunities. And what it is clear now when you look at the region, you were speaking about all the extremists, those, taking heads off ISIS and the others. But on the other side, there's another camp. And these are the regimes and states that, well, I don't want to say moderates, but pragmatics, okay? And they understand that the other group is their enemies. So instead of being isolated in the region and in the world, Israel can be part of this camp. Because the Arabs now understand that Israel is not, even though we didn't solve the conflict yet, hopefully we would solve it, but their enemy is our enemy. And you know that the enemy of, since we share the same enemy, we can work together in order to confront it with the entire free world. So I believe that this is time for Israel to be part of this camp of pragmatics, to work with the free world against our shared enemies in the region. Now, it is also true that the fact that there is this ongoing conflict with the Palestinians, this is something that for some Arab leaders, it makes it very problematic for them to do something public with Israel. I can tell you a story. I have relations, personal relations also as a foreign minister with most of the representative of all these states. So we used to meet, and when we wanted to relaunch one of the peace processes, the Palestinian representative, negotiator, came to Egypt, and all the representatives of the Arab League were there, and he said, Tzipi Livni said that she wants to stop meeting you in hotel rooms in Europe. She wants to be the legal wife now. So basically, I believe that this is also a situation in which by changing the policy and making some steps also towards the Palestinians, we can also be part of this new camp of pragmatics in an understanding that we face the same threats, the same enemies, and let's work together against this. So it's a kind of a small opportunity here in the region.
Tzipi Livni, we're out of time, but to end on that note, and I think of Gaza and your relationship with Egypt during that period is a perfect example of this. But thank you for ending on this optimistic note. We really appreciate it, and thank you for being here.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks.